Welcome back to part 6 of Tasting Studio Cune's portfolio with your portfolio manager. Let's get to it.
All right, so now, the Crianza we just tasted was a 2017. Now we're moving on to the Reserva, that's 2015.
Yeah,
Wow.
so 2015, you know, really good year for us.
Here's
As I said,
good stuff.
Yeah. So now as we move to Reserva, yeah, you know, different to Crianza. You know, people think, oh, well, if it's a Reserva, it's better than Crianza, or Gran Reserva is always better than Crianza. These wines, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily one is better than the other. It's what is the purpose of the wine? What is the purpose of that bottle of wine? No, like sometimes, yeah, Gran Reserva can be a very complex wine, but if you are just getting home from work and you know want to sit down, and enjoy, you know, a glass of wine in the patio, well, then you might want to have something like the Crianza, like the organic, the rosé, right?
Yes.
Now, if you're like, you know, cooking and you're doing a special meal and you want that the wine to like express itself and, you know, show it the best it can be, well, then maybe, then you want to go for a Gran Reserva, or so. So it's interesting to see that, and I like to make that point, because a lot of times, you know, people, they're just focused on like, oh, I want a Gran Reserva, or I want, you know, and it's like, well, you know, it's not always. It has to fit the moment where you're drinking it.
Right.
Obviously, Crianzas are always going to be cheaper than Reservas and Gran Reserva.
How would you say the 15 vintage was?
So yeah, 2015 was a really good vintage. You know, it was kind of like you know, everything that needed to happen kind of like happened. So as I was saying before, 2013 was not a very good vintage. So we didn't release a lot of our Gran Reservas. And then 14 was, you know, it was better. It was a little bit rainy towards the end of the vintage.
Yes.
But the fruit, you know, it got to good ripening. So we were, you know, they were able to harvest good quality and healthy fruit.
I really enjoy it. When they start to hit that Gran Reserva, like a lot of my clients, a lot of my follower knows I do have a special place in my heart for Italian grape varietal and Nebbiolo. But after that, the other thing that I absolutely love is the Tempranillo grape. So essentially anything that takes a little longer to age, because I like to see that secondary flavor coming out, and that has a little orange tint to it. There's just something about them.
The Reserva for me is like
it's perfect. Yeah. It's at a really good place.
Yeah, exactly, because it's not, you know, you're not getting something super young, and then you're also not getting like a Gran Reserva, which sometimes you need to think a bit more about it, right? Like, I'm opening a Gran Reserva, I need to think about this wine.
Like this is a good, like, Wednesday, I want to treat myself a little bit, like let's grill up a steak and let's pop this.
Exactly.
To be honest, and again, I'm always honest because I'm just gonna share, like if once you put them side by side, like this one, you can see the old stand out more. It's not quite well integrated as nearly as well as the Reserva, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's why I was like, this can take maybe a couple more years in the cellar, in my opinion. I think it'll be better. This one is pretty much all there, but my personal palate, I always like them older. So if I get this, I'll probably hold on to it 1 or 2 more years, because I think it'll be even better. But it's drinking really well right now. The oak is pretty well integrated. There's a lot of complexity there in the back end. It's very fun.
Well, we get a little bit spoiled, no? Because we're talking, I mean, this is 2015. We're in 2021. It's already 6 years old, no? But sometimes, you know, people see Rioja and they're like, oh, but, you know, I want older for Rioja. And you're like, oh my God, this is already 6 years old. But to your point, exactly, these wines can age for a very, very long time. There is tons of fruit, tons of acidity. I've had, you know, the opportunity to open Cune and Imperial from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and they age really, really nicely.
Thank you for watching part 6. Don't forget to subscribe to my mailing list at www.angiesound.com so you don't miss any future video. We'll see you at part 7.